everybody, Sean from Movie Assault here, and it is time once again for another movie review. This time out, I wanted to take a look at 1966's The Sword of Doom. I'm going to mangle every name that's in this movie, so please feel free to correct me in the comments below if I'm mangling these names too much. But this was a movie that was directed by Kahachi Okamoto, and it stars Tetsuya Nakadai and Toshiro Mifune. Tatsuya Nakadai stars as the main character. His name is Ryu Nosuke. I believe that is how you pronounce it. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry. The reason I'm so sort of unknowledgeable about this film is the way I discovered it is probably not the way that you normally will discover a film. I was actually at Barnes & Noble several Criterion Collection sales ago, and I was browsing, and somebody came up to me and said, hey, if you're looking for something, because I was just sort of mindlessly looking at the movies, trying to figure out what to buy. And he said, if you're looking for something really good that you probably wouldn't, like, you would probably look over, check this out. So I picked up the back of the box, and I saw Toshiro Mifune's name, and I said, well, I know who he is, and the synopsis on the back sounds kind of interesting, and I'll read you the synopsis. It's the story of a wandering samurai who exists in a maelstrom of violence, of gifted swordsman plying his craft during the turbulent final days of the shogunate rule in Japan. Ryonosuke kills without remorse or mercy. It is a way of life that ultimately leads to madness. So I read that and I thought, okay, that sounds kind of interesting. So I picked it up and finally got around to watching it earlier this week. And I have to say that I really enjoyed this. It is technically classified as an action film. I mean, if you look up, on IMDb, you'll see that it's listed as an action drama. But it's much more than that. It's really more of a character study. The main character, whose name I'm probably killing, Ryu Nosuke, he is just an atypical character to base a film on. He's sort of amoral, has no moral compass. He seems to take pride in being this extra super skilled swordsman. He has no fear of being beaten because he is just super skilled, and uses that to sort of fuel this desire to just impose his will on other people, I guess. And it's really hard to explain without seeing it, but the performance by Tetsuya Nakadai is just the key to the entire film. Trying to see if there's a picture here, and there isn't. It doesn't look like. No, but let me check the book. But the eyes of the character are really something to behold, and there really is a lot. Yeah, there's no picture. I'll have to throw one up on the screen. But his eyes are just, they say the eyes are the window to the soul. Well, nobody's home in his window. The performance that he gives with these sort of haunted eyes and these very deliberate body movements just really makes the character and the performance just unforgettable, really. And you notice I'm not really talking too much about the story. The story is, if you're not familiar with the history of Japan, and I'm not, especially the samurai era and the shogunate era, I don't know anything about it, and I am completely willing to admit that freely. So I'm sure some elements of the story went over my head. There are many things that I didn't understand, references that I didn't understand. But the core story is simple enough to follow. But basically, one thing leads to another after this duel between the swordsman and another man. And the other man's wife comes to Ryonosuke and basically begs him to spare her husband from shame, meaning don't defeat him, please. It's going to shame him, and that's going to cause all sorts of problems in the community. Please don't beat him and disgrace him, I guess. And he says, well, I'll do that if I can take your chastity, for lack of a better way of saying it. So he basically rapes her, and once the husband finds out, the opponent finds out, he immediately divorces his wife, and then he tries to take the rage out on Ryunosuke, and because he's such a skilled swordsman, he easily deflects the attack and ends up killing the guy. Well, that sets into motion this series of events that sort of takes him down the rabbit hole of insanity, basically, until the final reel. And the final reel of this, the final climactic battle, if you will, is just something to totally behold. But this movie really isn't about the action. The action is just the icing on the cake. It's just sort of this character study of this swordsman who is just really, really, and that sounds terrible, really, really, he's very, very, he's just captivating. And this performance has really haunted me for the past several days after watching this. I'm totally going to watch this again. There are a few things about it that I hesitate to say are criticisms, but this was originally envisioned, I guess, to be the first installment of a trilogy, and the second and third, and there was never a second part, there was never a third part, there were never any sequels to this. So some of the story elements kind of feel unfinished, and the ending, while kind of abrupt, it's okay in the context of the film, but you kind of feel like there was more to tell in the story. But the way that it does end in the context of the whole travel down the road to madness, it works well. So overall, I have to give this an 8 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. It is in Japanese, and it does have subtitles. So if you're one of those people who really does not like movies with subtitles, this is probably not the movie for you. And the one thing that I want to say is it may not be like a mainstream appeal type movie. It's certainly not something that I would normally pick to watch. But if you find yourself being confused by some of the story elements, or you're not understanding the historical references or the hierarchy of the social stuff, just ignore that and just pay attention to the character and the transformation that the character makes in this movie, and just pay attention to him, and everything will be okay. And once you get to the end, it'll all come together. So definitely a great movie. Highly recommended. It's part of the Criterion Collection, if you can't tell by me holding up the Criterion Collection copy. But yeah, this is really good. The cinematography is outstanding. Some of the symbolism in the film kind of is a little too on the nose. But by and large, the majority of the film is just beautiful to behold. There's a really great set design. I can't say enough good things about this. The only reason I gave it an 8 out of 10 and not higher is just because, like I said, some of the story elements feel sort of unfinished and underdeveloped, probably because it was supposed to be continued in another movie. But it's a minor quibble, honestly, and I think with repeated viewings, I will probably come to appreciate this even more. So I can't say enough good things about The Sword of Doom. Check it out. So there you go. That is my review of The Sword of Doom from 1966. And as always, feel free to comment below your thoughts on the film if you've seen it, and let me know what you thought. If you haven't done so already, please give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Really appreciate you watching and making it to the end of the video. Thanks again, and take it easy.